My dear students, in this session we will be understanding the concept of bending of beams. So today session we will be covering first a definition of a beam, then afterwards we will be discussing different types of beams, then we will obtain an expression for bending moment. So first let us know what is a beam. So here the picture shows three-dimensional view of a typical beam. So in this beam, if you compare its length with that of its thickness and breadth, so we see that clearly the thickness and breadth are very much comparatively smaller than that of the length of the beam. Means length of the beam is very much higher when it's compared to thickness and breadth. So now how do we can define a beam? So a beam can be defined as a beam is a rod or a bar of uniform cross section whose length is larger in comparison to its breadth and thickness. So this is the definition of a beam. Suppose if we imagine this beam is to be made up of large number of layers that are placed one above the another. So here in the 3D view of a beam, so that is showing only the horizontal layers. So horizontal layers which are placed one after the another. Suppose this beam, so what we are imagining, the beam is to be made up of large number of horizontal surfaces or layers which are placed one above the other. So imagine there is a one paper bundle. So in that paper bundle, all the pages, they are placed one after the another, one above the another. So each page is representing a layer in the beam. Okay. So here, such a layers of a beam, so as a whole, that beam, if it is subjected to a deforming forces such as weight, then that beam is going to bend. So that beam is going to bend in this manner as shown in this figure 1. Here, when beam bends, the layers in that beam is also undergoing a bending. Okay, and here if you observe keenly that figure 1, you can see that there is the uppermost layer which is experiencing a maximum elongation and the lowermost layer which is experiencing a maximum compression. So amongst all the layers there will be one particular layer that is represented in that figure 1 as a AB, which does not experience any kind of elongation or compression, and that particular layer or line that is called as a neutral axis, or the layer is called as a neutral surface. So AB represents, in the figure 1, AB represents the neutral surface or neutral axis. Suppose the right hand surface of the beam, right hand surface only, the dead end right hand surface of the beam, if you magnify that, then you can see that there is a couple acting on that beam. Here you can see there is the couple that is acting in one direction. In the opposite direction another force is acting. So one force is a elongation which is acting in this direction, another force is a compression which is pulling inwards. So these are two equal and opposite forces which constitute a couple. So this is the thing about only one single layer. So that is a right hand surface. So as a beam, full as a whole beam, if we consider, so that is undergoing the force of a couple. So here total beam is undergoing under the action of a couple. So due to which the turning effect of the beam that is taking place. So here, if you observe the internal forces acting at a different layers when beam experiences deforming forces are shown in this three-dimensional figure. So here you can see there is a black mark here. There's a black line that is there here. So this black line here, so this is a black line. You can see there's a black line. So here that black line divides the beam into two parts. So there's the upper part and lower part. So here there's the upper part. So you can see these are the arrows. So these are experiencing a elongation. The upper part of the beam is experiencing a elongation. So this is a one layer, and this is another layer, this is another layer, this is another layer. So these different layers which are present in the upper portion of the beam are experiencing a elongation. And the layers now which I am marking, so these are the layers which are present in the lower part, lower portion of the beam, which are experiencing, there's a inward pull, experiencing inward pull. So here the upper part is completely experiencing a elongation, and the lower part is completely experiencing a compression, that is an inward pull. So due to this elongation and compression, there is a couple acting on that beam, and that forms a bending moment. So this is actually the bending moment. So now let us discuss different types of beams. There are four types of beams, namely, first one is a simple beam, second one continuous beam, third cantilever beam, fourth one is fixed beam. Let us define one by one these different beams. So first, a simple beam is a bar resting upon supports at its ends. Here you can see that the bar is resting upon supports at its ends. So this is a simple beam. Here this type of simple beam are commonly in use. So they are having a most common applications. So second one, that is a continuous beam. So continuous beam is a bar resting upon more than two supports. So here you can see this beam is resting upon three yellow supports. So this is a continuous beam. So third one is a cantilever beam. So a cantilever is a beam whose one end is fixed and the other end is free. So one end of the cantilever is fixed here. You can see there is a crossed line, there is a fixed end, and the other end is a free end. So this is a cantilever beam. So next one is a fixed beam. So fixed beam is a beam whose both ends are fixed. So here in the cantilever only one end is fixed, another end is free, but in the fixed beam that other free end is also fixed here. So here both the ends they are marked with a crossed lines, so that represents the fixed end. So here that beam is fixed here. So these are the different types of beams. Now what are the applications of beams? So let us discuss the applications of the beams. So beams are used in the fabrication of trolleyways. So you would have seen trolleys that are used in the shopping malls, or moving objects from one place to another place. So in the construction of those trolleyways, so we are making use of the concept of beams. So and also while manufacturing the chassis frames as a truck beds, we are using the application of a beam. The elevators, it is nothing but a single cantilever, that's a cantilever beam. And in the construction of platform and bridges, so where we are using a usually continuous beams. And as a griders in buildings and platform. So these griders are the main supporting beams which in turn supports different beams. So it is a main supporting beam which in turn supports the different beams. So I-section beams are especially important in civil constructions as a substitute for numerous supports structures which obviously help in saving both time and money. So I-section beams are very important in this civil constructions. So now let us obtain an expression for that bending moment. Consider a long uniform beam whose one end is fixed. The beam can be imagined to be made up of large number of parallel layers as shown in the figure. Here CD is being the neutral axis. So this is the beam that is imagined to be made up of large number of horizontal layers which are placed one above the other. And here CD is representing a neutral axis, neutral surface, and AB which is present on the upper portion of the beam, that is there is a layer is present in the upper portion of the beam, and EF, that EF layer which is present in the lower surface of the beam. So this is a beam before bending. So here now the same beam we are considering here before bending. So suppose if a load is attached to a beam, then the beam bends. Hence successive layers now are strained. A layer like AB which is above the neutral surface will be elongated to A dash B dash. So here if you compare the beam, there is a left side figure that is a beam before bending, that is a figure 2A before bending. There is a figure 2B, that is the right side, that is after bending. So if you consider a particular layer like AB which is present in the upper portion of the beam above the neutral surface will be elongated after bending to A dash B dash. So that is getting elongated to A dash B dash. And EF which is below the neutral surface will be compressed to E dash F dash as shown in the figure. So CD is a neutral surface which does not undergo any change in the length. So the shape of the layers, the shape of a bent layers of a beam can be imagined to form a part of concentric circles of varying radii. So here A dash B dash, that is a one bent layer, CD is another bent layer, E dash F dash, that is also another bent layer in this figure 2B. Suppose if I take any one bent layer, say I have taken here is A dash B dash, and take another layer, bent layer, let us imagine I have taken here CD. So these are the bent layers. Okay, one is a dash B dash, another is a CD. So these are the bent layers. Suppose if I extend the inner bent layer like this, so I am extending the end parts of the bent layer. So that is a dotted line, the dotted red line, red mark, that is representing a extended part from the ends of the bent layers. So here this is a extended part of the bent layer. So this is an extended layer, and these two, all the layers will be having a common center. So if you extend the end parts of all the layers, so that will be forming this type of a circle. So here I have taken only two layers, and if I extend those two layers, it is forming a concentric circle, so which are having a common center. So here If I draw a radius to the inner circle, that's a R1, and if I draw another radius, that's a R2 from the outer circle. So here it will be having two different radii, but the center is common. So now consider a xy with a small element and r the radius of the circle to which neutral surface forms a part. So now I am considering on the neutral surface, neutral axis CD, I am considering a small elemental layer xy having a radius r. So consider another small element x dash y dash. So from that neutral axis at a distance x from the neutral axis, I am considering one more layer, that is a dash b dash layer, on which I am considering a small elemental layer x dash y dash. So now from this figure, so this is a xy, that is a layer length xy can be written as r theta. So how we are writing this? Xy is equal to r theta. So you might have learned in your lower classes, there is a arc radius sector. So there is a arc length AB here in the right side of this diagram, at the below right hand corner of the diagram. Here you see this. So the AB is AB is representing a layer. That's a arc length. So AB is a arc length. In the same manner, XY representing a, in our bending beam, XY is representing the arc length. Okay, and here OX OY is similar to OB OA. Okay, so OX OY is similar to OA OB. So OX or OY both are representing a radius. OA OB, those are representing radius in the right side, and theta is the angle here in both the cases. So theta is the angle. So here arc length can be expressed as radius into the theta. So xy in the same manner we will write xy is equal to r theta. So based on that formula, actually this is. Similarly, so x dash y dash can be written as x plus r into theta. So here x plus r is the actual radius from that point O to point y dash or x dash. So OX dash or OY dash is actually the length of the radius of A dash B dash layer. Okay, so here as we have written in the above line, xy is equal to r theta, similarly we are extending also for that A dash B dash layer, x dash y dash is equal to x plus r into theta. So if you distribute the theta to x and r, we will get x theta plus r theta. So now the increase in length is written as x dash y dash minus xy. So here this is increase in the length that we are taking in A dash B dash layer. So in that A dash B dash layer, the increase in the length, we can get it by subtracting the above length with the neutral surface length. So here if you substitute corresponding values of x dash y dash and xy, so x dash y dash is x theta plus r theta and xy is r theta. So here plus r theta minus r theta, they get cancelled out. So when you add them, those are having a opposite sign, there's a 0. So we left with only x theta. So change in length or increase in the length that we got is x theta. So this much of change in the length or increase in the length happened in the upper surface of the layer. So now Young's modulus. So the basic definition of a modulus. So Young's modulus can be defined as the longitudinal stress by linear strain. So the definition of a modulus is stress by strain. So Young's modulus is defined as longitudinal stress by longitudinal strain or linear strain. So here, let us say this is equation 1, but the strain, linear strain, is equal to change in length to that of the original length. So the basic definition of a strain itself is, that is, change in length to the original length. That's the basic definition of a strain. So here it is a linear strain, that is change in length to original length. So change in length, already we got it, that as a x theta. So original length is r theta. So here, that is theta theta cancels and we left with x by r. So from equation 1, here stress can be written as, so here just we are keeping stress one side and cross multiply that linear strain with the y, Young's modulus. So we left with stress is equal to y into strain. Say that is a equation 3. Now substituting equation 2 in equation 3. So here in the right side part of the equation 3 there is a strain term is there, and we will substitute that value of the strain here. So stress is equal to y into strain, that is a x by r, already we got in the equation 2. So stress is equal to force per unit area. The basic definition of a stress, that is force per unit area, that's a F by delta A. Then what is this delta A? So let us discuss what is the delta A. So F is equal to stress into delta A. So the basic definition of a stress is force per unit area. So this is a delta is a unit area, small elemental area. So delta represents a small value. So delta A is a area. So delta A is a small unit area. So here stress is equal to force per unit area. So force, if I keep it one side and bring remaining terms to another side, if you cross multiply, so force becomes equal to stress into unit area. So F is equal to stress into unit area, that is delta A. So where is that delta A we have taken here? So this is a beam. So blue color marked line, there is a vertical cross section. So that is a green area is a vertical cross section area. So in that, separately I am taking that vertical cross section area, that is a, in that vertical cross section area there is a red portion. So that is representing actually the elemental cross sectional area. There is a small area that we have considered here. So for understanding purpose I have marked it in a very large portion, but actually there is a very small elemental area, that is delta A. So from equation 4, as a previously that we have taken as a equation 4, so F is equal to y into x by r to delta A. So here we have substituted the value of stress here in the equation 5. We have substituted the value of stress as y into x by r, and delta A is as it is. So thus the force producing elongation acts on the upper half outward, and those producing contraction acts lower half inwards. So these two forces constitute a couple. So moment of force about the neutral axis, or moment of force about the neutral axis is given by F into x. So moment of force, generally it is given as force into perpendicular distance from that fixed point. Okay. So this is based on that same formula. So moment of force about the neutral axis. So neutral axis is fixed here. Okay. So we are fixing the about that neutral axis we are taking the moment of force. So moment of force about that neutral axis is given by F into x. So force already we have established that term. So just substitute from equation 5, that's force value, into this moment of force. So we have substituted that value here. We have substituted that value into x from that equation 5. So here x into x becomes x square. So finally that is y into x square by r into delta A. So moment of all the forces about the neutral axis due to all the surfaces. The moment of force about the neutral axis is the summation of one single moment of force that is acted on the neutral surface. So it is a summation of all such a moment of forces. That is y into x square divided by r into delta A. So here for a given material, y Young's modulus is a constant, and for a given layer, that's radius is also constant, that we are taking it out. So we left with, under summation, we left with only this x square into delta A, sigma x square into delta A. So bending moment is given by y by r as it is, and Ig, that is a sigma x square delta A, that is written as Ig here, So where it is shown here below this equation 6, Ig is equal to sigma x square into delta A. So that is written as A dot k square. So here A is the area of cross section of the beam, and K is the radius of gyration. So for rectangular cross section, so if B is the breadth and D is the thickness of the beam, then area of the rectangular cross section is B into D. So breadth into thickness. So radius of gyration, there is a k square, is given as d square by 12. So if you substitute this a and k square value into that Ig is equal to sigma a square sigma x square into delta A, that is equal to A into k square. So here Ig is equal to A into k square. So in that Ig value, if you substitute the value of A and k square, so here we get the equation 6 as bending moment y by r into bd cube divided by 12. So for circular cross section, if the beam is having a circular cross section, then r will be the radius of the beam and A is the area of the cross section. So area of the cross section is given by pi r square. So since it is a circular cross section, and radius of gyration for such a circular cross section is given by r square by 4. So now we will substitute in the place of Ig, we will substitute A value and k square value. So then bending moment becomes y by r. In the place of Ig square, we are getting pi r to the power 4 divided by 4. So that is equation 8. So in this session, we discussed the definition of a beam, different types of beam and its applications, and expression for the